Guys, on the web, am I audible? I should have got the response by now. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that. Okay, fine. Okay, before getting into what DevOps is and what is that I'm trying to speak about and all of that, let us take some examples which we daily use, and based out of it, we will design the need for DevOps, right? So that we will have a right, basically momentum set for why we are doing DevOps. Okay, then comes how part. Okay, so now why are you here? First of all, why did you choose DevOps? What is the reason for that? Any specific reason? No reasons. Just because Quality Thought has a demo, you are here. Is it? Are you regular customers of Quality Thought? No, right? So you should have some. Pardon me. There was some. Pardon me. Why? What would it would help to you if it is in demand? Course in demand ఉంటే మీకు జరిగే ఉపయోగం ఏంటి? What it turns up to? I need an exact answer. Salary, right? Yeah. So that's why we are here. The whole point around it is drags down to that point. No matter whether you call salary, opportunity, or whatever it is, the realistic point around here is salary, right? So let me speak about those stats first, so that yeah, I think I had an answer over the web. Yes. So the basic point is the general salary of an engineer in Hyderabad. Let me speak about Hyderabad and Bangalore statistics. In Hyderabad is 1 to 1.25 into years of experience. So now if you are a 5 to 10 years experience, let us assume you are 10. So your salary might be somewhere in between 10 to 12.5. That's a Hyderabad average. If you are in Bangalore, your salary might be in 1.25 to 5, which is 12.5 to 15 lakhs if you are in Bangalore, right? And that's the highest paid city. There is no city which is better than Bangalore when it comes to pay, right? And in Quality Thought, from the moment we started, we are observing an average of 2 into years of experience. Okay, so approximately a 10 years experience gets 20 lakhs average. When I say average, not that everyone gets 20. There are many people who have gone beyond it, and there are many people who are less than that. Okay, and one thing to always remember is in India the salary growth is always relative. Always relative. What do I mean is, for example, if my salary is 10, it will not become 28. They would basically approximate based out of your current salary and then go to that. Very few companies like Microsoft, Deloitte, these guys have pay bands. So what they do is, no matter what your current salary is, if you are joining into certain band, that band has a min range and a max range, so you are bound to that. Okay, so that's a better option, but those kind of companies are very less in India, very less. All right, what? Okay, so and Pawan, I think we'll do that at the end. Let me finish my part, and if you have any questions, then we can discuss about it. Right? For now, please use typing. Otherwise, actually, I have done that earlier. Okay. On a lighter note, I'll tell you what would happen if I unmute it. You will get the recording of it. In this recording, along with my voice, you will get Baba Ramdev's yoga voice. Okay. You will get ETV news voice. You will get all sorts of noises which doesn't make any sense. So that's why we have planned to mute on the call, and only when there is everything is good, then we'll unmute it, right? So please understand on that. Yeah. Okay, fine. So this is the whole perspective. One is salary is good. Then the next question is, why is salary good? Okay, so I would say salary is better than dev now for DevOps. What is the whole reason for that? All right, so There are many sites for booking bus tickets. What is the site which you are using? Tell me one. Don't tell all. Red bus. How many of you, majority, is it red bus or Avi bus? Red bus. Why? Okay. Let me come back to the same question in a different domain. Okay. There are many sites for booking bus tickets. We go with, what is the famous movie ticket booking app? Book My Show. Why not just tickets? Why not Paytm tickets? Why just Book My Show? Offers is definitely not the reason, because you have similar offers. After some point, only when the app launches, right, you would have decent offers. But after that, you just go into anything, you'd have the same thing. 1+1 ICICI card offer that is there on almost every ticket booking site, right? Yeah, but still we use Book My Show, right? Yes, marketing plus user friendly. Yeah, I think Suchitra is giving me all the right answers. Yeah, thanks Suchitra for that. The two cases which I have discussed, they are first into the market. They have came into the market first, so that's why they have the customer advantage. If you take an example of Ola and Uber, Uber is a world class product, no doubt about it. It is best cab booking app throughout the world, but in India Ola is best. The only reason is Ola is launched few days or months earlier to Uber, and just because of those days it is still having its advantage of having market capture. And exactly this is what your organization wants. Okay, in very rare cases that the app that comes second crosses the first one. That has happened in the recent times with Flipkart and Amazon. Not, yes, Flipkart and Amazon. Amazon was launched later, but it has overtaken Flipkart, right? But it has taken some time. It has not happened just like that. For the Amazon to beat Flipkart, it has to go with a whole lot of strategies. Not every organization can do that. So if you take probability wise, any company which releases the products or features faster to the market always has an advantage. You can do this with any app which you are using. Swiggy is far better than Zomato or Uber Eats or Ola food or whatever it is. Okay, the whole reason for all of this is who launches first will always have the market advantage. And you and me as a DevOps engineer are being paid for basically releasing our applications faster to the market. That's the whole reason why your organizations are paying you better, because the work which you are doing might indirectly lead to business to your organization. Are we good? So now, without any technical terms, do we understand why we use DevOps? We use DevOps so that we can release our products faster to the market. Then why are we paid? We are paid because when we release faster to the organization, when we release faster to the markets, we will have, our organization will get a better market capture. That's the whole point. Okay, and to achieve this, what is that we do throughout this course is the other story. Right, now let me take up some of the examples which you daily use. Do you use Facebook? Yes. Do you use Amazon shopping site? Yes. Okay, let us assume that you are a developer of Facebook. You have developed one feature, code is ready, you commit the code, or you basically make the code available in some sort of system where developers put the code in Facebook. Okay, so your code has to reach to production, yes or no? Okay, so what is the time do you think it takes typically in your organization? What is happening? A developer writes the code, and by how much time will it be in production? Any guesses, rough numbers of what is happening in your organization? Months, right? If your company is good, completely agile, then it might be days, 14 days or 9 days or whatever it is. All right, okay. Facebook, a developer does the commit and it is in the Facebook application in 1 hour. Okay, Amazon does it in 1.5 hours. Are you seeing any errors on these sites? ఈ sites లో పెద్ద errors చూస్తున్నామా? For the applications which we are testing or which we are developing, we will see much obvious errors even though after months of testing. Yes or no? Right? So what is different here? So these guys have automated to an extent that there is no need of any manual intervention. Once the developer commits the code, okay, they have a process in such a way that it can test and tell that okay, everything is good, you can go to the market. Otherwise the commit will not be honored. That's the whole point. And eventually we want to reach to there. By the end of this course, will you be in this position of Flipkart or Facebook? Flipkart or not Flipkart, the Facebook or Amazon? I'm not sure, because that requires a heavy automation. But if you are unable to reduce your market time, okay, even though you use all the tools which are being discussed in this course, you cannot call yourself as a DevOps engineer, or your company cannot call it as DevOps, because the basic essence of DevOps is to reduce the time to market. And if you are unable to achieve it, that's it. It is not DevOps. You might have used whatever tools you have learned, but it is not DevOps. So are we good? One important aspect of DevOps is all about reducing time to market. Now, the second one, there are many tools who does this operation of reducing time to market. But the other most important attribute is time to market and business value. Time to market is the main goal because we get customers. And the next one is business value. When I say business value, what is that I am meaning? What is my reasoning behind it? My reasoning is to reduce costs. Don't use hefty tools which are heftily licensed. Okay. So let us assume that there are tools like App Dynamics which will cost approximately $500,000, and now you use it for monitoring. The problem is it return on investment? Not sure, right? So that's the whole point. So two major objectives which you will always search for is, one is, am I reducing time to market? And to do this, am I using the cost efficient way? These are the two important objectives. That's why in the DevOps world, rather than the commercial tools, open source tools are popular. You can have a look at it. Any tool that is popular in DevOps world is mostly commercial and mostly open source, not commercial. Okay. So two important goals: faster releases, less costs. Okay. Technically they call it as time to market, reducing time to market and increasing business value. That's it. These are the two major principles of DevOps, and we are bound to increase it. Okay, fine. So generally what would happen over here when we say less costs? Okay, so our role rise in, also if you are starting a DevOps process, okay, not everything is new in DevOps. Similarly, not everything is old in DevOps. Okay, because we are trying to, what we are trying to do, we are trying to reduce, on a very simpler note, what is that we are trying to reduce? Developer, oh sorry, let me do this. Developer writes code, this is for sure, right? All of you agree with that? Yes. And after this, steps to make it available in production, right? If you want to reduce this time, the second part, okay, you have to automate it. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Once the developer writes the code, whatever it takes, okay, or whatever the processes which your companies follow, we try to automate that. And since there is no single tool which does all of this automation, we try to use the tools based out of the phase which we are in. Okay, today I don't want to go with my general PPT discussion. Okay, I have a general PPT where I generally discuss about what are the different things of DevOps and all of that. But today let us be logical. We are basically trying to achieve these two things. So are we clear? So when does your job start? Immediately after your developer finishes your code, then you are responsible for making it available into whatever it is. Okay, so For this, what are the different phases? Okay, shall we draw them? This is not at all a technical stuff. Anyone who knows about development or testing or anything can tell about it. Okay, first, developers write code. I'm not getting into the design phases. How do you write code based out of some design documents and all of that? I'm just making it simple. Developer finishes the code, and after that, what happens? So then what happens is, yes, the first kind of testing that is being launched is, and the owner of this unit tests are developers itself. So the basic concept of this is, for the people who don't know what a unit testing is, let us assume I have written a function, I'm writing a calculator, I've written an add function, and I'm using a Java as a language. So almost in 99% of the cases, I'll be using the same Java language to test my add function. Here my focus is just the function what I have written. నేను ఇప్పుడు రాసిన దాని మీద నా ఫోకస్ ఉంటుంది, నాకు మొత్తం అప్లికేషన్ తో సంబంధం లేదు. I have written an add function. I want to see whether add function is working in all the cases or not. So I write unit tests. Okay. So basically, unit tests have to be executed. If unit test is failing, that means your quality is not good. Right? Yes. Then what happens is, then actually you go to the manual testing or whatever it is. But for manually testing your application, all right, or doing it via Selenium, generally you cannot test Selenium or manual testing via code. Do you agree to that? Can you look at code and execute manual test cases? No. We need an application. We need an application, and developer is writing code. So how will we convert code into application? Important step. Yes or no? Code and application కింద కన్వర్ట్ చేయాలి కదా. నేను జావా రాస్తున్నాను, .NET రాస్తున్నాను, పైథాన్ రాస్తున్నాను, ఐఎమ్ రైటింగ్ ఇన్ డిఫరెంట్ లాంగ్వేజెస్. సో something has to be done to convert this code into application, because that is what we give to our customers. And this phase is generally called as build and package. So in the case of based out of a language, you have a different build tool. Based out of your application environment, you would have a different packaging tool. So for example, if my application is a web application, right, so I might end up just by creating a zip file. If my application is something like Google Chrome, I have to create an installable. So it depends on what you are developing. So build and package, right? And then we give this build and packages to our local testing teams, right? They execute whatever tests they want. Okay, so this could be system tests, performance tests, Selenium testing, whatever it is, whatever your manual testing or an automated testing is, has to be done. So we have to build and package. And testing team, so build and package, what testing team will do? They would install on a machine, right? So I'm just changing this into one more way, which I would call it as preparing test. Do you agree to this? Yeah. And now we give the test environment. On this, your testers will execute their tests, and they would say whether this build is having the quality which your industry is like looking at, or if it has any issues. If it has any issues, then the process is they will raise defects, and that would come in. Developer will write code again, and again the same cycle repeats, right? Till the quality is met. And now, once everything of this is being done and all sorts of testings are ready, then what would happen? Then we deploy to, I should call, we deploy to staging environment first, or pre-prod, or UAT, whatever you call it. Okay. Once everything is ready from here, then we deploy to production servers. I'm not saying that every company will have the same boxes or the same phases. There might be slightly different. but I'm taking majoritarily what happens, I've just chosen those steps. So developer writes code, and once the code is being written, the unit tests have to be executed. Okay, and then the environment has to be built, then the build and compile or build and package has to happen. So Java application has to be converted into a war file. .NET application has to be converted into some DLL file. Okay, C or Python application has to be converted into some exe or a Linux executable. Okay, this will be shipped to your customers. Now that you have to prepare an environment for testing, right? And then you execute your test cases, and then it comes to staging environment. Staging is pre-prod. Before you go to the production, you will basically ensure that everything is equivalent in that environment and everything is working there, and then you deploy to stuff. Not done, still we have other things to do. So for doing all of these operations, we use a lot of servers. Yes or no? Yes. So we will have one more step, which is not a process, which is not the part of this pipeline, but very important step, which is monitoring. Which is monitoring, right? So your job might be automating any of this. Your job might be automating any of this. So that's the whole point. And now, if your production servers are in the cloud, you are supposed to learn the cloud environments also. If it is on non-cloud environments, you don't require any cloud operations. But for most of the web applications, your deployments are now on cloud, right? So you should be familiar with cloud, right? So this is the whole stuff which we do, and for this we learn tools which help us in sorting out some of the aspects. Are we good? Yes. Okay, now let us individually look for each phase of this application. What are the different tools which we are going to learn, for doing which what is going to be our tool, so that we know what we are learning. Okay, so this phases, do we have any doubts? Simple, right? And very logical stuff. ఇందులో పెద్ద టెక్నికల్ గా కూడా ఏం లేదు. డెవలపర్ రాస్తారు కోడ్, ఆ తర్వాత యూనిట్ టెస్ట్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతాయి. ఫర్ యూనిట్ టెస్ట్ code is enough, but for doing manual testing or selenium testing, you need an application environment to be ready. So we need to build and basically package, and then prepare the environment, and then basically whatever it is, then preparing the test environment, deploy it to staging, and then do it. And each box might have different various areas into it, but I want to be simple today, right? So now let me look into questions from the web if I have any around this stuff. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now basically this, if you remember, the boxes which you are seeing over here, the whole stuff is continuous deployment. All the boxes combined is continuous deployment. Only if you are doing till this box, till the fourth box, we call it as continuous delivery. The only difference between delivery and deployment is delivery prepare stops till your test servers, deployment goes till your production servers, right? Continuous integration stops here. Third box, continuous integration is all about generating the build and stopping it. Okay, continuous integration is all about telling the quality of your application. Okay, packaging your application and executing automated tests. That's it. It will not speak about really preparing environments and all of that. Yeah, in some cases we might need to, but the whole point is CI never speaks about environments. CI is all about compiling your code, executing automated tests, and giving the feedback of the quality of the code that has been delivered, right? Now imagine writing code. What is the tool which we use over here? There are many. Okay, when I'm not telling the tool that is used to write the code, I'm worried about the tool that is used to store the code, so which we generally call as version control systems. So VCS, and what we are going to learn over here is Git. Okay, but there are tools like SVN, there are tools like TFS, there are many other things. Why Git? Again, the same, the question drops down to the same point: business value, zero cost. Okay, version control system. Git is an open source system and you can use it at zero cost. That's why it is here, right? Now unit testing, this is very much specific to your what do you say, your dev environments, but I would put down some unit tests. Okay, unit testing tool, you would be using something like JUnit, okay, NUnit. Okay, to write this you need to have a knowledge of this. Yes, నేను యూనిట్ టెస్ట్లు రాస్తున్నప్పుడు కావాలి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ యూ డోంట్ నీడ్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ దిస్. You would be using tools like Maven or Gradle or MS Build. Okay, so this is what our knowledge is required, because we don't write unit tests, we execute unit tests, right? So that's why we don't need JUnit, we don't need NUnit, we don't really worry about the stuff. Let it be any execution tool, any unit testing, we should know how to execute it. We should know how to execute it. And now for building and packaging also we'll have the same set of tools, but what we do is, I don't think so I can draw a dotted line, but let me try to draw a very slimmer line around this. These activities, right? The three boxes. Whenever developer writes or basically stores the code in Git, okay, then we take the code, we execute unit test cases, we build and basically package the code. This process we do it in something called as continuous integration using CI machines or CI systems. And here we are going to learn something called as Jenkins. Okay, so remember over here I am not specific to any programming language. అవునా, ఇక్కడ ఏమైనా ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ కనబడుతుందా మీకు? సో ఎనీ ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ will have the same steps. Okay, the only difference is how you execute unit tests, how you build the code, how you package the code changes, and you don't need to know all of them, you just need to know what is the command that is being used. Okay, so I'm not specific to any technology, so we'll use Jenkins. And also we need to give code quality, we need to give code quality. So for analysis of code quality I will call it as static code compilation. Static code compilation means developers write the code, and if there is any tool which looks at that code and tell that it can be improvised, okay, that is a good thing to be done, because every time manually reviewing the code might not be possible. Okay, especially in these kind of faster environments, every time reviewing each and every line of the code for every aspect, no. So what we do in DevOps is, for routine checks we use static code compiler, and we do manual review for algorithmic check for whatever business logic which you have developed, not for really the language specific best practices. All of that are brought in by tool. There are many tools, but the popular one is SonarQube. Are we good? So by the end of today's class you should know why Git is used, okay, and why Jenkins is used. The responsibility of the Jenkins is these three dotted lines which I have tried to draw. That is the basic responsibility of Jenkins, right? So it picks up the code from the developer, it executes unit tests, and it gives you the your application in a packaged format, right? So apart from that we will also learn something called as a repository. Okay, every day you are building packages. Okay, every day you are building packages, every time developer writes the code you are getting a package. Where do you store it? You can store it in a directory, good, but if there is some tool which helps you in basically maintaining that releases, that binaries, that is good. So that's what I mean by repository. So and this, for this repository we would be learning tool called as artifact. Simple. So till here are we good on tools? Do you understand why each and every tool which is written over is used? We have Git, okay, we have Jenkins, we have SonarQube which tells the quality, and we have Artifactory which stores whatever we are building every day, so that whenever we want any version that has been built we can go and ask Artifactory. Simple, right? Now there is something called as preparing test environment. Here there are two challenges. When I am saying preparing test environments, Okay, are you speaking about creating new virtual machines and then installing software and then deploying your application? For example, I want to deploy a web application which is developed in Java. Yes, let us assume that is what we are trying to do. Okay, similarly, if I want to deploy an application that is being developed in Python, okay, just copying the application and double clicking, will it work every time? No. Yes, no. For example, if I have developed an application in Java, I have to ensure that on the system where I am running, Java is already present. Okay, and if this application is supposed to run on a Tomcat server, Tomcat has to be present, right? So every application for executing will have some of the infrastructural needs. Yes, right? So if that, there are two things again here. Do you want a new system every time? When I'm saying new system, I'm speaking about virtual machines. I'm not speaking about physical machines. Do you want a new system every time, or do you want to reuse the existing system? Okay, so here we go into two steps. One is creating infrastructure and then doing and then configuring your system. Yes, so first we need to create a Linux machine, that is creating infrastructure, Linux virtual machine. On that Linux virtual machine, basically installing Java, installing Tomcat, or installing whatever your application needs is what do I mean by the second step, which is written over there, which is configuring system. The one which you see on the top in DevOps is called as infra provisioning. Whenever you come across something called as infra provisioning, it is nothing but creating infrastructure or managing infrastructure, which is about your network, which is about your virtual machines, which is about your database servers, shared drives, whatever it is. And the next part is, once you have that infrastructure ready, the software needs of your application. That could be installing some set of softwares, making spaces available, all of that. Okay, the first one we call it as infra provisioning, and the second one we call it as configuration management. Now let me make a note over here because the place is congested over there. So infra provisioning, we would be learning tools like Packer and Terraform, right? And configuration management, we would be learning tools like Ansible or Ansible and Chef. It is not R. Actually, I've just written R because organization uses at least one of them, not both. Right? So our preparing test environments is done by these tools. And by the way, Jenkins call them. Jenkins calls them at the once you finish your DevOps and you are good at all the tools, right? All of this is triggered by Jenkins. All of this is triggered by Jenkins. Okay. And the best part is, even if it is here or here, the same tools are used. Yeah, because we are seeing, for example, preparing test environment and then deploying to staging and then deploying into productions. If you see, all these three boxes will have same steps. Avuna? The only difference is servers are different. Okay, and in your production and staging servers are good, but in your test environment the servers are okay, not so good, right? So the only thing that differs is we write the script once and we use it 3 or 4 times depending on your processes. That's the whole point. So these are the set of tools. Now what is left? Monitoring. Yes, very important aspect. So here we would be doing two kinds of monitoring. One I would call it as system monitoring, and for system monitoring we'll be using tools like Nagios. And then we would have application monitoring, and for here we would be basically using Elasticstack. Okay, Elasticstack is Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, and Beats. Right? So this is going to be our journey. Okay, this is all Wonderful. And this is all virtual machine deployment. This is all virtual machine deployment. But a new thing has popped up now. But there is a new thing that has came up in the industry which is very much popular. That is called as, I don't think I have space somewhere. I'm writing over here. It's okay, right? Yes. That is called as container. And for this container, we'll be learning Docker. And for orchestration, I'll come back to what that orchestration means. We'll be learning Kubernetes. Okay. So now, if it is Docker, okay, while you are building and packaging, you will not be building language specific stuff. You will be building language specific stuff, and along with that, you will be building a container image. And then you give that container image to Kubernetes. Done. There is no need of all the other steps. Are we getting the whole point? So normally, build and package. Build and package will give you the Java output. If you are building a Java application, you will be getting a var. No matter whatever user application, in build and package, rather than giving a language specific deployment, what we build is, we build it to a container, Docker container image. And that Docker container image, give it to Kubernetes. Okay. And there is no need of creating infrastructure and all of that. Kubernetes is already a hosted solution in many clouds. For example, if you go to Google Compute, there is a Kubernetes solution. Okay. So give your container files and Kubernetes file to Google Cloud or Azure or your in-house Kubernetes deployment. Your application is up and running. That's the newer way of deploying applications. Okay. And especially this boils down to one important point, which is called as microservice. Okay. If you have some contacts with your dev community, you can ask what they are working on, and you might come across all the people who are working on new features or new applications are working on something called as microservice. So what is a microservice? Let me tell you what would happen. Let us assume that you are building a e-commerce website, and you have built the Java application, a var file for e-commerce application. Wonderful. Now you have basically run the marketing campaign saying that whoever joins my e-commerce, I will be giving cashback. Yes. So then what would happen? There will be many registrations that would occur on your application. Okay. Let us assume that your application is being, I'm using the other paint. Your application is being deployed in a server. Okay. And every server will have something called as concurrency limit. It can say that parallelly I can access 500 users or 5,000 users, whatever it is. Okay. There is a limit for every server. Okay. So I'm putting the default limit. So default limit of servers are generally 5,000 in many cases. So it can parallelly take requests from 5,000 users. If 10,000 come, 5,000 requests will be serving and 5,000 requests will be waiting. Okay. And generally these servers uses HTTP protocol. Yes or no? For accessing Facebook, what is the site URL which you give? https://facebook.com. Or you use Amazon, the same thing. Okay. All of the web are hosted on protocol which is HTTP. HTTP has one important point. HTTP has something called as timeout. HTTP has something called as timeout. Let us assume that I have typed something called as google.com. So while sending the request, my browser says I am sending a timeout value of 20 or 30 seconds. So what would happen is, if for 20 or 30 seconds, if your server doesn't give back any value, then the Chrome will say that the page is not responding. Your response has been timed out. This is the error what you get. Now your 5,000 requests are waiting. So all of that 5,000 browsers might get an error message which is response has been timed out. Exactly this is what has happened on your Flipkart's Big App Day. Do you remember? In Flipkart, when the first time the Big App Day was done, the pen drive was given for 1 rupee. How many of you have got it? మీకు వచ్చిందా? మీరు మూడో వ్యక్తి అండి, చరిత్రకి ఎక్కారు మీరు. I'm asking this question for the 3 years and you are the third person. So if didn't we tried? Most of us tried. But why we didn't got it? Because our request was in the queue. Our request was not being put in process state. That's the whole point. So to solve this, what will do? What will we do? Pardon me? And the potential, that's the exact point. There are two ways of doing it. I'm coming back to that point. Whatever you have assumed is right. Okay. So the point is, why don't we increase strength of our server? Okay. And in increasing strength of our server, there are two ways of doing it. Your laptop is not working faster. What will you do? Increase the RAM. This is called as vertical scaling. When you increase the power of your same system, that is called as vertical scaling. Okay. But the problem is here we have something to do with network. No matter how much you increase the CPU utilization, there will be some network which will be same. So what we do is, rather than increasing the power of the same system, you can bring in one more system which does the same thing. Make sense? Rather than increasing the power of that system, what I would do is, I would bring in one more system. This is called as horizontal scaling. Okay, you can follow whatever makes sense. Ante మీ రిక్వెస్ట్ ప్రకారం మీ అప్లికేషన్ లో ఉన్న ప్రాబ్లం ప్రకారం you can choose any approach. You can either go for vertical scaling or horizontal scaling. Now let us assume that the company has chosen for horizontal scaling. Okay, and in our scenario, what is happening? Registrations are more. Okay, and then we have increased our application. And if let us go back to our application, does our application just have registration, or does it have many? మన అప్లికేషన్ కోడ్ లో ఓన్లీ రిజిస్ట్రేషన్ లాజిక్ ఉందా, ఇంకా చాలా ఉన్నాయా? ఇట్ ఈస్ అన్ ఈ-కామర్స్ అప్లికేషన్. ఇట్ హ్యాస్ మెనీ థింగ్స్ బియాండ్ ఇట్. ఓకే, సో the only thing which you were expecting was, I wanted the power to be increased for registration. Yes or no? Logically speaking, I wanted the power to be increased for registration. But what is it I am trying to do? I'm increasing it for my complete application. So this was okay for many years, but now it is not. But now it is not. So what companies are doing over here is, rather than having a one single large application, they are breaking this into multiple smaller applications or smaller services. So that's why they call it as microservice. One single application is broken down into several microservices. So rather than having this huge box, you will have smaller boxes. Now the advantage, let me tell you what is the advantage of it. Let us assume that you have e-commerce application, and now you have started something like Prime Video. You have started something like Prime Video, and basically in Prime Video or in Amazon, what is your login? Mostly Amazon same login, whatever you use. So can I use the same authentication service? Yes. Storing the data in the database, can I use the same database service? So you write the smaller portions of the code, make it as a service, and reuse it in at multiple places. That's the new concept. Okay, so breaking down your application into smaller services which can run on their own is a microservice. Now let us assume that we have this is a registration service, and this is a ordering service, and this is a shipping service. In our case, there is no need for me to increase O and S. I can just simply bring in one more R. My problem will be solved. Okay, and the compute power that is required is very much less. Okay, bringing one more server is costly, but bringing one more container, which are bringing one more microservice, is much cheaper. That's the whole point. And for you, if you want to realize these kind of deployments, you need to think about something called as containers, and to be very specific, which is Docker. And increasing these containers, right? Increasing R, increasing O, increasing S. These things are done by something called as very important area. Okay, so in this we will be covering Docker, Kubernetes on Azure, Kubernetes on Microsoft Cloud. Yes. 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 Yeah. In some cases you can argue that that is good because you will have minimal management. Okay. Now the problem is I can use the same server, one server, and I can host 10 R services. Okay. Now you look at the hardware cost. So నేను నా దగ్గర ఒకటే సర్వర్ ఉంది. ఆ ఒకటే సర్వర్లో నేను రెండు ఆర్లు పెట్టుకోవచ్చు. ఇంతకు ముందు కుదురుతున్నది. On one server I cannot have two registration services, but now I can have only one physical server or one virtual machine, and on that I can have 10 or 15 hours. Okay, because the whole point is you are utilizing it to the maximum potential. That's the whole point. Okay, container is very small area for execution, very small area for execution, very wonderful area. We'll be learning about that from tomorrow anyway. Okay, and this area, Jenkins, are very important, very important. Okay, and when you speak of Docker, I take any last 10 jobs in quality thought, at least 5 or 6 are completely on Docker and Kubernetes. Very important areas, very very important areas. Okay, you speak with your dev teams, you speak with the buzz which Docker or Kubernetes or these kind of orchestration tools are creating in the market. They are very very popular, very popular. Okay, and మీ కొత్త dev teams, if you basically look at what they are working into breaking their single application, which was a larger application, into microservices now. Okay, this is very popular if you know about something called as REST API or API services. Okay, now there is one more area why it is important. I will tell you the actual reason also. Earlier, whenever we were developing applications, our development was very much focused towards browser based applications. Yes, now we need to give mobile apps. Okay, slowly IoT is also coming into play. Okay, your water purifier RO will make a request to the service agent once your RO is not doing good. How is all of this realized? How can all of these things be realized? Okay, so basically if you want even a smaller devices to call to your application, okay, you need to support something called as REST calls or HTTP APIs. Okay, even that is one of the reason for breaking your application into smaller services. Right, I'll discuss about all of this. This is a wider area to discuss, but on a very simpler note, you can break your application into multiple smaller pieces, and whenever there is a need for increasing, there is no need to increase all the application. There is, you can selectively choose that. Okay, now registrations are happening, so I'll be increasing registrations. Tomorrow when sales are happening, I might be increasing, I might be scaling ORS, then R might not be required. That's the whole point. So you can scale selectively rather than the entire application. That's the whole point. Are we good? Yes. Now at least do we have an idea of what is that will be doing in a typical DevOps engineer's life? He could be doing in one of the, he could be working in one of these boxes. Okay, DevOps engineer day to day workflow. Here, whatever boxes which you are seeing, he might be working in one area. Right? Are we clear? Good? Yes? Okay, fine. So I think this is what I had. Okay, so I didn't wanted slides today because slides are very much like managerial discussion. Just wanted to have start with a non-technical look at something which is technical. I'm not spoken terminologies. నాకు తెలిసిన టెర్మినాలజీస్ ఏం మాట్లాడాల, నేను మాట్లాడిన ఒకే ఒక టెర్మినాలజీ కంటైనర్ అనుకుంటా. Right, apart from that I have used a very simple layman's terms. Right, so this is what we do, and for doing this, most important thing is in DevOps you get packages or you get salaries when you come to classes daily. Avuna? No, when you practice daily. Daily attendance sheet maintain, that's your responsibility and your career. Right, in DevOps the only way to crack a job is practice and practice hard, because DevOps interviews are not very much interview questions based. Okay, so generally we have a habit of looking at interview questions when you go to interviews. Right, try it with DevOps, you will never get the same questions. Okay, if you are getting interview questions, means the person who is asking interview doesn't know what is DevOps is. Okay, okay, because let us assume that I am working right now. Okay, my area of focus is preparing test environments. I go to the interview. Okay, I'll be interested in knowing the other person's test environment. So my focus will be on that scenario. The problem here is things are very much simple if you do it. They look simple when you don't do it. Okay, they become complicated after few time itself, right? So practice it daily. If you don't have a time of practicing at least 10 hours a week, 10 to 14 hours a week, don't join DevOps. You are wasting your money. Okay, better than that, invest in mutual fund. It will give you some returns, right? DevOps క్లౌడ్ నేర్చుకోవాలనుకున్న వాళ్ళు ఇంకో 25,000 ఎంత వేసుకొని గేదె ఒకటి కొనుక్కోండి, పాలన అవుతుంది, right? But if you are coming to the classes, it is very important that you practice it. Okay, I'm one more thing which I can confidently tell you is name one technology which can give you the career for the next 10 years. I can bet it is DevOps. Okay, the only thing that might change is today I'm using Git. Tomorrow there might be some better tool than Git. Today I'm using Jenkins. Tomorrow there might be some other tool to do that CI effectively, but these boxes are not going to change. And if you know the intent of what you are trying to do, it doesn't change. Okay, the only thing it could happen is you might get a better stuff, like what is happening to cars now. When we started, we used to have the cars with all of the stuff with power steering, manual steering and all of that. Now the only thing that is happening in car is evolution, which will be friendly actually, but unfortunately we will not realize that, will not realize that, right? Okay, fine, then let me look at questions over the web. Yeah, will you be teaching Linux? Yes. So apart from this course, it is not me teaching Linux, it will be someone from Quality Thought teaching Linux, because yeah, Linux will be taught to you throughout this course, but it will not be me. Okay, it will be someone else doing it for you, right? So yeah, apart from this, what we would basically do is you would go through an agile classes which are important, because that is what we work for. If you have seen all of those boxes, that boxes make sense when you have some process underneath it. And we'll be speaking about Scrum process as such. In agile there is something called as Scrum, and that will be taught to you. And apart from that, anyway, you have Linux. Okay, and for the people who are interested to learn Python, even that is free. But mark my words, Python is next step after you get to know all DevOps అంతా తెలిసిపోయిన తర్వాత, అంటే నేను మాట్లాడిన టూల్స్ అన్ని తెలిసిపోయిన తర్వాత, ఇంకా ఎఫెక్టివ్ గా చేయాలంటే అప్పుడు పైథాన్ కావాలి. బట్ పైథాన్ ఈజ్ నాట్ ద ఫస్ట్ స్టెప్, రైట్? సో ఫస్ట్ స్టెప్ ఇస్ లినక్స్ షెల్ స్క్రిప్టింగ్, రైట్? సో our course has one more thing which I have not written on that board, which is Windows DevOps. Now even PowerShell and these things are becoming very critical. So our course will consist of PowerShell and PowerShell DSC. PowerShell DSC is a configuration management of Microsoft Windows, desired state configuration. So we'll be learning Docker, Kubernetes, Windows DevOps. When I say Windows DevOps, I'll be speaking about PowerShell, PowerShell DSC, and IAS servers. Then we'll go back to Ansible, Chef. Okay, and after the no Puppet. Puppet is expired now. Teach Puppet ni sampesham. Okay, and after that we'll be learning Jenkins, and then Terraform and Packer. So this is what your journey is. We'll start from Docker. Okay, so I'll be using very basic Linux commands. I don't want to start it in a very procedural way where you say that, okay, today let us start with ls. Ls means list all files in the directory. No, అలా నేర్చుకుంటే మీకు లినక్స్ జీవితంలో రాదు. I'm betting you on that. Okay, the only easier way to learn Linux is, how many of you have never worked on Linux? I'm quite sure that you have worked on Windows, right? Yeah, so have you used command prompt in Windows? Have you used command prompt to launch the Chrome browser? Start doing that. Okay, that's how you learn it. So then you will see, okay, if I have to launch an exe, for example, if you see this, okay, I'll do the CMD. Okay, notepad. Yeah. So in the same sense, Chrome should also work, right? But what it is saying? So if you identify the error of this, or if you go into the deeper steps of this reason why it is failing, why Notepad is working and why Chrome is not working, then you will come across an important environment variable called as path. Okay, to your system in the path environment variable, Chrome path is not added, Notepad's path is added. So then you will be learning one more concept, which is environment variable and a variable called as path. That's it, right? So start from here. మీ లినక్స్ పెద్ద దూరం కూడా ఏం కాదు, right? Once you start basically getting used to any command, any terminal, getting into Linux is simple. But if you are used to mouse clicking, okay, please avoid that. Okay, I know it is a difficult stuff, but once you start using command line, you will never like UI, right? Okay, so we'll be looking into not this, but we'll be looking into PowerShell. This is a new Microsoft's what is a scripting tool. Earlier we used to write batch files. Now if you look at most of the Microsoft stuff, they use PowerShell files, PS1 files, and would be learning how to write the shell scripts or PowerShell scripts over here, okay, along with shell scripting, right? So we'll learn both. And by the way, PowerShell is now available on Linux also. PowerShell core is available on Linux also now. So if you want, if you are good at one, you can apply the same stuff for the other operating system, right? Okay, now let me get into the questions. Okay, do we have any DevOps tools for mainframe applications? See, I'm not sure, but this area is not, is still under research, because um, not many mainframe applications are active under active development. I would say mainframe applications are not there is a very big mistake, but mainframe systems in the active development are very much specific to some organizations like IBM. Okay, and basically they, and if you know IBM, they generally don't make anything which is public until they release it. So not much buzz on that, but I've seen 2 or 3 conferences where it is still possible. All right, okay. So will Kubernetes decides like how many containers does it need required? Yeah, Kubernetes can decide it if you tell Kubernetes. The question is, can Kubernetes decide how many containers does it launch need on based out of the performance? Yes, Kubernetes can do it, but to Kubernetes you have to tell it. And while learning Kubernetes, we will learn how to speak with Kubernetes so that it does our job. Okay, it will not do it automatically. We have to tell Kubernetes to do it. All right. Any scripting is mandatory. Any scripting is mandatory. I'll not say, I'll not use the word mandatory. Any scripting is very much required. Very much required. Because we are automating this stuff. Yes or no? All the boxes. And whenever you are automating, you should know what are manual steps first. That is a prime requirement. And next, the manual steps which you are doing will be converted into some sort of script. All right. So that's the whole point. That's what we do. Right. We need to create by practicing AWS account. Yes. Yes. Okay. So can you, when HPO, I didn't got what it is. Okay. I'm very bad at abbreviations. So if you can expand, I think I can probably answer. Okay. If not, I can tell I don't know. All right. Okay. I'm a Linux admin. Yeah. So fine. Why both Azure and AWS courses are involved, I will be speaking about that 15 minutes from now, because after this I have a cloud demo and my complete focus will be on that. All right. Okay. What is the role of Kibana? Kibana is a UI which can show you analytics, monitoring results. Yeah. Any other questions? Are we good? Okay. So for the people who don't have a time to practice, I'm telling you again. Okay. Just have a look at this image. You already understand what DevOps is, what people do in DevOps, you can't learn DevOps because you don't have time. Okay, DevOps requires some time. Okay, కానీ కెరియర్ మాత్రం బాగుంటుంది, that much I can guarantee. But if you practice, okay, just because you come to classes daily, you don't get job. You will get job only when you are practicing this stuff, right? Okay. uh, See, one thing which I would tell is, for any persons who are specific from specific technology and trying to come to DevOps, okay, let us assume that I am a DBA. How many, any DBAs around in the room? Yeah. Okay, so I am a DBA. How will DevOps help me? You are going to become a DevOps engineer, so you have to get used to all of this. So you are strong in one area, and now you are increasing your spanning your strengths into all of that. So you cannot learn DevOps and still be DBA. అది గుర్తెట్టుకోండి. I am a SAP admin, I am an SAP basis guy. How will DevOps help me? DevOps will help you to become DevOps engineer. You are no longer SAP basis or whatever specific technologies which you are trying to do. So my answer for you is exactly the same thing. Okay. Yeah, the whole point is, throughout the week you get to ask questions by this. Okay, and if you have anything which you want to speak to me, you can call to quality dot immediately after the class. I'm available over here. And anyway, for the people over here, I'm obviously here. And on Saturdays we have classes from 7 to 10, right? Obviously. And from 10 to 12 I am here lying down without having any work. You can, if you have anything specific, you can call to me. Okay, and apart from that, if you, while practicing, you might get some issues, so we maintain a GitHub page where you can raise your concern, saying that I'm unable, I'm stuck at this point. So either me or lab assistant or some of the other DevOps engineers who have learned from us will try to help you out. That's the whole point. That's how we work on it. So that we have started quite recently, because we wanted even the people who know to participate. Earlier we were just asking to send mails. ఒక మెయిల్ ఐడి ఇచ్చి దీనికి సెండ్ చేయండి, మేము మీకు రెస్పాన్స్ ఇస్తాం. But eventually what we do right now is we use something called as in GitHub, we have our own repository. There we basically, you can raise your issues. Okay, and those issues will be addressed over there. Okay, because if someone else asks the same question, you already have an answer there. So we are trying to build something like Stack Overflow, right? Not very Stack Overflow-ish, but yeah, something based out of our budget, right? PowerShell is licensed? No, it is already available or installed whenever you have Windows 7. From Windows 7, PowerShell is part of your operating system. There is no license around it. PowerShell is a free tool which Microsoft has to obviously give, right? Yeah. Okay, fine. Any other questions? So are we good? అసలు DevOps ఎందుకు వాడతారో ఐడియా వచ్చిందా? Okay, and typically what a DevOps engineer does in his day-to-day life, any boxes, in whatever boxes which I have drawn, any one box, right? I'm planning to my start career after a long gap. Can you please guide me in resume preparation? I'll basically, resume preparation, how I deal is, all of the stuff which you need to write in a resume, I have already put it in. So for example, in resume you write two important things. One is professional summary, the other one is roles and responsibilities. Okay, I've broken down, I've put a PDF in our blog which basically tells what has to be written. Okay, resume I have not put it as such directly, because I will tell you what has happened. In our institute, ETL testing is very much famous. Okay, and for that the sir has given the resume. And now if any of our quality thought student goes to the interviewer comes to know that he is from quality thought. Can you tell me how? ఇచ్చిన resume లో పేర్లు మార్చి పట్టుకెళ్ళిపోతారు. So that's why I don't want to do that mistake. So that's why I've decided. But what I will do is, using that, you can prepare your resume, and then we can have one-to-one discussion of what has to be corrected and what has to be done. That I can help you. Yeah. Lots and lots of money in US for DevOps. Yeah. I got some calls, but somehow I'm very much patriotic. I don't want to leave India. So yeah, I'm still not making money then. Yes. Okay. Fine. So can you contact of online offline training content. Okay, so content is organized in two ways. One is the daily stuff which I basically use in the class. So you can go to qualitythought.in/blog. In that blog, you will be seeing DevOps material. Click over there. All the links are already available. Everything is open. All the samples which I do in the class, they are available in GitHub. Anyone can look at it and anyone can do it. Okay. And apart from that, there are, for some technologies, I have written some books. When I say I written some books, it doesn't mean that I do like what others do generally. I have gathered the content from various different forums and put it in one place so that it would be useful for you to understand the technology. Okay. So those books will be shared to you by Quality Thought. Apart from that, everything is open. Okay. Our books, our specific books tappa anni open. Okay. You can go at any moment and then you can refer to those stuff. Yes. Yeah. Will every session get? Yes. Generally, every session gets recorded and they would be shared back to the online to the people who are listening from the web. Okay. For the people who are offline and if you miss some classes, are you seeing TV there? TV on the ankala? Okay. Recording program దాంట్లో play అవుతాయి. All right. So for the people, just spend some time over here. Okay. And even for the people who are on the web and if you are in Hyderabad, I would recommend at least now and then come to Quality Thought so that we can know you. If you have any doubts. For some people, it is not possible because they stay far away from here. Right? Yeah. Will you give me the link on the plane? I said, why paint? I'll type it over here. Quality thought.in/blog. Okay. So fine. So for the people who have came here only for DevOps, that's what I had for the day. And for the people who want to basically also understand what a cloud is, I'll be starting it in 10 to 15 minutes from now. 8:45, I'll start that stuff. All right. Okay. Then thanks guys. Thanks for your time. Yeah.